Heron is a young black-haired man who has an athletic build, a resolve of steel, and is reasonably strong. He lives in an ancient version of Greece where he spends his life collecting iron ores and working other odd jobs around the clock to earn enough money to keep himself and his mother, Electra, alive. They both are outcasts of the society as villagers think that they bring bad luck with them and consider them to be lower-class people. Being shunned from the society means that it is very hard for Heron to find any half-decent job and more difficult to sell whatever ore he is able to collect by working tirelessly in the mines. One such day, he returns back from his expedition after collecting a bunch of iron ores. He walks inside of the market, where he is given a stink eye by most of the buygoers, but he finally stops at a merchant's shop and deposits the ore over there. The merchant makes a face after looking at him, and then throws a couple of coins on the ground for him to pick it up. Heron swallows his pride and picks up the coins before asking the merchant why is he getting paid much less than the other laborers. The merchant simply looks at him with contempt and tells him that he should be happy that he is even trading with a scummy person like him. Heron grits his teeth and walks back with the coins. He meets up his mother, who he spots in the market, and when she asks how much did they earn today, he shows her the 2 coins that he was lucky to get. Electra looks at him with eyes full of understanding and tells him that he shouldn't worry, and that she will find a way to make everything work. Before he could respond, however, they heard a bunch of clamoring footsteps and saw a bunch of people running towards the center of the market. Both Electra and Heron follow the others and are taken aback by the sudden arrival of a legion of soldiers led by Alexia, their commander. She tells them not to worry as they don't intend to hurt anybody, but they are in pursuit of a pair of demons that have entered the city. She asks Heron whether they have seen anything suspicious, but he replies that they haven't, and she tells them to go back inside their houses as these demons show no mercy and are one of the worst creatures to walk on Earth, before riding away with her troops. Suddenly, they hear a noise coming from the nearby canal, and they walk over to inspect what's going on, only to see an old man named Elias who must have fallen into the canal and is now bleeding. Heron is a nice guy, so he goes over to help him and picks him up to take him back to his mother, who tells Heron to get some fresh water as they need to clean the wound before it festers. Heron goes over and fetches water in an unreasonably fancy vase, but before he could come back, he saw a woman lying in the reservoir below. This man again rushes in to investigate and tries to pick the pretty woman up to see whether she is alive, but is horribly scared to see that she has already been unalived by something long before he arrived. He starts falling back, scared, when he bumps into a monstrous creature, who jumps on top of him and starts waterboarding him, which is a very common game in Russia. Heron starts struggling, but is able to kick his attacker away before getting up and drawing his knife. The demon simply walks up to him and slaps the knife away from him before punching and kicking him in the face. He tries to go for another punch, but Heron is like psych bitch and gets him into an arm lock before getting punched away again. The demon tries to attack him again, but this time Heron decides to roleplay an elephant and simply throws the monster away into a pillar. The demon, however, gets back up and decides to get his sweet revenge by throwing the pillar back at him, which hits him square in the face and he gets stuck beneath it. The demon walks back up and tries to go in for a final slash, but suddenly is stabbed by Alexia with her spear, who draws it in and pins him to another pillar. This demon must be deafer than Helen Keller for not hearing God and horse. The demon starts crawling up to him in a really creepy fashion and tries to attack her, but she takes out 2 of her swords and blocks his blow. They get into a scuffle where she is only able to graze him because of his hardened skin or something. She was having trouble landing any substantial hits, but suddenly she gets a boost of women power, and she starts slashing him again and again before he catches her sword and throws her away in a pillar again. These pillars are getting more attention than I ever got as a kid. He then throws the sword at her, but she is able to deflect it with her other sword, leaving her weaponless. The demon rushes towards her, but again he seems to have zero spatial awareness as Heron simply walks up to him and burns him in the face with a flaming torch. From now on, I will name him Helen. So Heron pushes poor Helen inside of the pond as fire seems to be their weakness, and instead of making sure that he is dead, Heron simply turns around and starts talking to Alexia. They finally look over to the pond and find the demon missing, which results in Alexia calling her horse and riding off on it to pursue Helen. The entire town seems to be scared as the town gets searched by the soldiers looking for the injured demon. Heron returns back to his mother and Elias, but spots a huge crowd gathered in the center, so he moves over to inspect it. On the stage, he spots Alexia alongside her soldiers, who seem to have captured a normal-looking human and have chained him to a pillar. I am seriously jealous of the attention these pillars are getting. She addresses the crowd and tells them that they are all in danger as a new enemy approaches them from the east, and this enemy is different than anything they have ever seen before. They are a cult of monsters that are merciless and ruthless and don't differentiate between men, women, or children. At least they are not sexist, I guess. Electra then grabs a hot iron rod and tells the onlookers that she's going to reveal the true nature of these monsters before poking him with the rod. The man starts shouting in pain, but slowly starts converting into a creature, unlike man. She takes out the poker and stabs it deep inside the creature, and it starts transforming into its actual form. Turns out it was Helen all along who shapeshifted to take the appearance of a human, hoping to lay low till the soldiers leave, but girl boss Electra found him and captured him. You slay queen. Helen gets up and starts grinning creepily at the onlookers before saying you will convert or die, which is surprisingly the same thing that the Christian missionaries told me a week ago. Before Helen can spread his propaganda though, Electra puts an end to this with a swift slash, killing the demon immediately. Later that night, Heron takes Elias back to his house and starts asking him whether he has any idea about what Electra was talking about. Elias starts talking about a story older than time and greater than the universe itself. The story begins with the gods defeating the Titans, however. As the last Titan fell, he cursed the gods, and the Titan's blood gave birth to the giants, whose sole purpose was to find and kill every single god in existence. This marked the beginning of the Great Gigantomachy. The war lasted for a long time, and many gods lost their lives in this hellish battle. However, one day Zeus decided to make peace and convinced some of them to take up arms with the gods. They hesitated in the beginning, but Zeus was able to manipulate them into joining their side for the greater good. Following this, when Zeus launched the final attack in which the giants Zeus had made a deal with, betrayed their own kind and helped the gods win this battle. With this last battle, the long war ended with the gods turning out victorious. One of the gods gathered all of their remaining ashes, which was put into a heavenly cauldron and cast into the depth of the great sea, never to be seen again. Still, this long story didn't answer Heron's question regarding demons. The old man further states that after many centuries, a huge storm rustled the ocean floor and the remains of a giant were cast back ashore. One day, an unfortunate human discovered these remains, and as he touched it, his body transformed into a weird monster, a demon. The people who were following the human saw this and pledged their allegiance to him. With no food, they had no choice but to devour the giant. With this, all of them transformed, and this marked the birth of the heinous race recognized as the demons. With this, he ends the story on a cheerful note and immediately takes a rabbit out of his ass and hands it over to Electra, who is in the kitchen where she belongs. The next morning, he goes over to the center again, where Alexia killed poor Helen last night to watch them burn the body, and while watching it, he is approached by the girl boss herself, who tells him that he is a good fighter, and they need good fighters right now. She shows them the map that she took from Helen and tells him that the demons are going to stage another attack pretty soon, and that he should join them in the fight against these filthy creatures. He looks her straight in the face and tells her that these people have forsaken his mother and he has no wish to protect scum like them before he moves away. He returns back to his place where Electra is in the kitchen, obviously. He starts packing everything up, telling her that they have to move before the next demon attack, but suddenly notices a bunch of people walking towards their house with coals and an iron rod. They tell them that they suspect his mom to be a TikTok influencer and wants to test her, but Heron stands defiantly, telling them that if they touch his mom, they will die. The man mocks his face and claims that he is only one and can't take all of them together, but Heron says, "Try me, bitch," and a fight breaks out. One of the guys attacks him with an axe, but he dodges his blow and punches him down before dodging another hit, but soon he starts getting overrun and overpowered by so many men, while the girl boss looks at him from a distance. They start ganging up on him and beating the crap out of him, while calling him a keyboard warrior, but his mother shouts at them to stop and grabs the rod before touching it to her own body to prove that she never installed TikTok. Her skin starts burning before she drops the rod, and the men who came to test her leave, while Heron runs over to console her. Later, he goes on to talk to Elias and asks him about the ways he can become stronger, to which he replies by pointing at a mountain and telling him to climb that mountain, where he will find a rose bush, and if he digs beneath it, he will find an adamantite ore with which they will craft a sword like no other, the sword of a hero that will lead humanity to victory. Decades ago, even though Queen Electra was pregnant, she wasn't expecting the labor to come this early. One of her servants went to call the king. Electra tried stopping her because she feared that the king will kill her baby. After some time, she gave birth to her first child. In the midst of all this, the king appeared at the spot and inquired about the baby. The servant handed over the baby to him, and the king checked his eyes. The baby's eyes were brown just like his, and he announced that the baby will live. Following this, Electra went into labor again. The king was shocked at this. It was another boy, but this time around, the baby had blue eyes, which made the king suspicious of Electra, and he decided to off the baby. He pulled out a knife, and as he was about to off the baby, an eagle appeared out of nowhere and saved him. With this, Heron wakes up from this weird dream gasping and sweating buckets. With no awareness regarding his surroundings, Heron forgets that he is climbing a mountain and almost falls. Following some vigorous climbing, Heron finally manages to reach the top of the mountain. At some point, he did regret his decision to climb the mountain, though. Upon reaching the top, he discovers the blue rose plant and the adamantine hidden below it. After acquiring adamantine, he climbs down the mountain and hands over the adamantine to the old man, stating that it was a waste of time. The old man, however, reassures him that it was not a futile journey. After this, Heron asks him about a mysterious symbol he had witnessed in his dream. It was the Seal of Corinth. The old man further enlightens Heron about the reality of dreams. He tells him about the existence of entities such as Phobiter, responsible for showing people nightmares born from their worst fears, and Phantasos, responsible for showing illusions and deceive people. Besides these two, there is another entity named Morpheus, responsible for the visions of truth. They are known as the Oneiroi. The three of them are always jealous of each other and try to surpass each other by utilizing weird tricks. Anyways, all of them have different responsibilities and they exist to remind us what we have forgotten. Heron perceives them as beings even worse than gods. After this, Heron confronts his mother and asks her about the dream he had. With no other option left, his mother tells him everything related to her past. According to her, she was married to King Periander, the tyrant of Corinth. Not long after she was married, she caught a god's eye who fell in love with her. One day, he visited Electra in the form of King Periander and presented her with blue roses. Electra couldn't believe it, as her husband was always cruel and brutal, and now he was kind and loving all of a sudden. The very next day, he was back to his usual self. This madness continued for quite some time, as Electra didn't know what to expect when she sees her husband. Would he be kind this time, or cruel and brutal once again? One day, she finally confronted the loving side of her husband and asked him about his true form and intentions. With no other option left, Zeus transformed back into his god form and told her everything. In the midst of all this, Zeus's wife Hera noticed his presence in the human world. Zeus' son, Apollo, realized this and rushed to inform him about this. He appeared from a mirror and asked his father to come back and took his place in the mortal world. Zeus used the same mirror to teleport back. Meanwhile, Zeus somehow managed to convince Hera that he was taking care of some giant remnants in the ocean. Apollo, on the other hand, was so seeking to see Zeus reveal his true self to a mortal. He also realized that Electra was pregnant with Zeus' son. Hera, however, was not convinced by Zeus' explanation and decided to keep an eye on Electra herself. It took no time for her to realize that Zeus was lying and Electra is pregnant with his son. This made her furious, and he sought the help of the Oneiroi to destroy Electra. The Oneiroi would appear in King Periander's dreams and deceive him about Electra's affair with Zeus. Being the type of person he is, King Periander believed his dreams instead of trusting his wife's words. Fast forwarding to that time when Zeus saved Heron from Periander. He appeared in the form of an eagle, and when the soldiers ambushed him, he transformed into his god form. The king ordered his soldiers to attack Zeus as he ran away with Heron. He wanted to throw him off the balcony, but Electra realized this and attacked him with a knife. With this, King Periander himself fell from the balcony and died a gruesome death. With no other option left, Zeus teleported Electra and Heron to this town on the outskirts and covered it with clouds so Hera wouldn't be able to find her. Electra wanted to bring her other son alongside as well, but Zeus refused, saying that you will be better off staying in the castle. After hearing this story, Heron got furious. He thinks that Zeus is just some coward who left his wife and child to rot in an outskirt town. For him, the old man is way more helpful. He is the one who brings them woods and other stuff like rabbits for dinner. However, after gazing into his mother's eyes, he realizes that the old man is actually Zeus. This makes him even more furious as he rushes to destroy the altars Zeus used to forge him the adamantine sword. Not realizing the importance of the sword, he hurled the sword, hoping to never see it again. Depressed Heron was drinking water at a pond. In the meantime, the old man appears out of nowhere and transforms into Zeus. He tells him that everything his mother has told him is true and asks for his forgiveness. Heron, however, cannot forgive his father for what he did to his mother. He abandoned her and his own son to live in such blemished conditions. Furthermore, he tells him that he doesn't want to see him again, and with this, Zeus disappears. With this, Heron decides to head back, but he notices Alexia running towards him. She tells Heron to run away as a three-headed hound was following her. As they start running, Alexia tells him what happened to her army. Her entire got obliterated by the demons who appeared out of nowhere as they were resting and looking at the map she had retrieved. Heron takes Alexia to his home first to search for his mother. For some reason, she is not there. In the midst of all this, the three-headed hound attacks him. He gets saved by Alexia, who pushes him away and battles the hound using a mere sword. Heron tries to help her with his bow, but the arrows have no effect on him, and the hound tosses him away. Following this, Heron stabs the hound with a huge wooden log and renders him incapable of fighting. After defeating the Hound, they witness an entire army of demons standing on the mountains and looking down on them. On their way to the town, Heron tells Electra about the existence of a mine that can potentially save them. With hundreds of demons following them, they somehow manage to enter the polis. Upon entering, a commander confronts them and asks about the condition outside. Without wasting any time, Electra orders him to evacuate the entire polis and listen to what Heron is saying. The commander hesitates in the beginning, but he has no other option besides obeying her. Heron informs Electra that he will catch up later as he must find his mother. With this, they go in the opposite direction. In the midst of all this, the leader of the demons, Seraphim, sets his eyes on Heron. He attacks him using the spear he stole from Electra. Heron counterattacks using his bow, but a measly bow couldn't even scratch Seraphim. As Seraphim is attacking him, he could hear Zeus' voice in his mind. He's trying to help him survive this battle as Heron knows nothing about actual combat. With Zeus' guidance, he somehow manages to survive. Zeus tells him to run away as it is not the time to battle Seraphim. After ignoring him for quite some time, Heron finally listens to his father and decides to run away. With Seraphim and other demons still following him, Heron notices a barrel of oil and spills it all over the place. As the demons approach the oil, Heron sets it on fire and absolutely obliterates the demon. Being a demon himself, Seraphim has no other option but to leave Heron alone. As the other civilians were evacuating, Heron was still looking for his mother. After some thorough search, he manages to find her, but Seraphim and the other demons are also there. They are asking her about some piece of cloth about which she has no clue whatsoever. Heron is watching all of this and tries to ambush Seraphim. He manages to kill a couple of demons, but battling Seraphim was too much even for him. He pounds him right in the face and renders him incapable to move. After witnessing this, Electra gets up to help her son, but she also gets punched by Seraphim. After regaining his senses, Heron manages to punch Seraphim, but it has no effect as he absolutely obliterates Heron, rendering him incapable to fight anymore. Realizing that he is doing all of this for his mother, Seraphim decides to kill her. Using his spear, he pierces her chest, killing her on the spot. After witnessing his mother's death right in front of his eyes, Heron is completely devastated. It's almost like he has lost his will to live. Furthermore, Seraphim orders his soldiers to take Heron away and hold him captive. Alongside other prisoners, Heron is caged like some animal and is still unconscious. As he wakes up, he witnesses his mother. He apologizes to her for not being able to save her. She encourages him by saying that there are fates way worse than death in this world. He has to remain strong and realize who is he really and what is his purpose in this life. With this, Electra crosses over to the next life, leaving Heron all alone in this accursed world. After witnessing all these demons, Heron wonders if he is in Hades. Seraphim had captured some other humans as well besides Heron for unknown reasons. Heron tries asking other prisoners about Seraphim's whereabouts and where can he find him. The prisoners, however, mocked him by saying that he should stay out of this if he wants to survive at least. Heron still persists, and they tell him that Seraphim is still in pursuit of Electra. Heron and the other prisoners were being taken to a special place. Heron asks the other prisoners about this place. They tell him that he is better off not knowing. After some time, they reach their destination. All of the prisoners were held captive in massive galleys, and there is not a single person alive who has managed to escape them. After getting into the ship, Heron and the others were forced to row the huge galleys they were held captive in. Hundreds of demons were keeping an eye on them. Despite these harsh circumstances, Heron manages to make some friends, including a 2-time champion of the Pancration Games. At this point, they don't even know each other's names, so Heron takes the initiative and asks them their names. The guy who is talking a lot and looks like a weakling is Evios, and the other guy who looks extremely strong is supposedly the 3-time champion of some games is named Kofi. After carefully observing his surroundings, Heron devises a plan for all of them to escape. However, for this plan, he needs help from Evios and Kofi. With no other option, they agree to help him. Heron had realized that the demons come down after some time to refill the oil lamps. And when they come down, Evios and Kofi have to steal the keys. The plan was to divert the demons' attention with some silly act, and with his sharp instincts, Evios will somehow steal the key from a demon and free himself. When the demons finally come down, the 3 of them proceed with the plan, and Evios somehow manages to steal the keys. He then hand over the key to Kofi and Heron, who free themselves as well. After defeating all the demons who were guarding them, Heron asks other prisoners to free themselves as well. With all of them free from their shackles, Heron and the others launch a counterattack on the demons and took control of the entire ship. Evios and Kofi even used a ship to get rid of other galleys. With all of this going on, Seraphim appears out of nowhere and attacks Heron. He notices that Seraphim has the adamantine sword Zeus had forged for him with him. Actually, Heron had ordered Seraphim to locate the sword and kill its wielder. With this in mind, Seraphim realized that this sword is actually made for Heron. As Heron proceeds Seraphim to engage in combat, massive lightning strikes and obliterates the entire ship. It was Zeus. Hermes had informed him about Hera's plan to kill Heron, and this made him furious. After witnessing the adamantine sword in Seraphim's hands, he realizes that Heron stands no chance against him. His fury is such that he bombards the entire ocean with lightning bolts until he gets tired. With this, he manages to separate Seraphim and Heron as both of them fall into the ocean. Heron realizes that all of this is his father's doing. Despite all these attacks from Zeus, Seraphim manages to survive and reach the shore. Meanwhile, Heron had also managed to reach the shore and gets reunited with Electra. He asks her what she was doing there. Electra tells him how she got betrayed by his centaur, Chiron the Wise, and ended up here. In the midst of all this, Zeus appears in his old man form and informs them that the gods have started interfering in the war. Heron questions Zeus why is he there. Zeus answers him by saying that he is here to help them defeat the demons. Heron, however, rejects his help and starts searching for weapons to fight back. Zeus tells him that he can hate him all he wants, but he cannot deny the fact that he is, in fact, the key to this war. Hearing all this, Evios decides to leave, but Zeus stops him by saying that this is his last chance to redeem himself. Furthermore, he enlightens Electra and the others about the existence of giant remnants and that they can defeat the demons by destroying the remnants. Some other soldiers also join them because they want to recover their lost glory. He denies everything Zeus is saying about lost glory and is still not convinced, but Kofi somehow manages to convince him. Witnessing all this, Heron asks Zeus if he can help him kill Seraphim. Zeus tells him that he cannot kill Seraphim himself, but he can train him so he can fight Seraphim on equal terms. With this, Zeus whistles and calls upon a griffin, using which Heron will accompany Zeus to Olympus. After he bids farewell to his comrades, Heron jumps on Griffin's back and starts following his father. He is fascinated by all this and cannot believe that in no time he will be standing at the same place other gods like Zeus and Ares stand. Upon reaching Olympus, he is not welcomed by the other gods as they are shosike that how can Zeus bring a mere mortal to Olympus? They gaze upon him like he is some trash. Apollo, Hermes, and his other siblings warmly welcome him by shaking hands. With this, Hera appears at the spot and questions Zeus about his decision to bring a mere mortal to Olympus. Zeus counter-questions her by asking her how can she conspire against him. In front of all these gods, Zeus concurs that all of this is his fault and wants to correct it. He promises Hera that he will never leave her side and be loyal. Zeus thinks that he has finally managed to convince Hera, but she had other things in mind. She demands Heron's head in return for forgiving him. Zeus utterly refuses and tells her that he only chooses what is right. This created two factions among the gods. Even Zeus' brother Poseidon sided with Hera, leaving his brother all alone. Following this, Heron reaches the Colosseum alongside his father for training. Despite being a demigod, Heron has no inherent abilities. He is just like an ordinary human. As they are conversing, Hephaestus orders a mysterious robotic being to attack Heron. He gets startled by this and falls to the ground. For him to defeat a robotic being manufactured by Hephaestus would be a huge feat. Heron gets up and takes up his stance as the robot attacks him again. Heron tries to counter the attack with his sword, but the robot overpowers him and thrashes him into the ground. However, Heron still gets up as the robot hurls him into a pillar. He realizes that close combat is a huge no against this being. With this in mind, he throws his sword at him, but the robot dodges it with ease. Weaponless Heron has no other option but to use his shield as a disc and throw it toward the robot that catches it and hurls it back. There is no way Heron can defeat such a thing with brute force and resilience. He needs to think with a cool head and focus. However, his anger is not letting him concentrate on the battle. There is nothing Zeus can do for him if he can't even control his anger. Even after trying multiple times, Heron is still no match for him. Zeus once again confronts him and destroys the robot with just one strike. This frustrates Heron even further and he leaves the Colosseum. After hearing this, Zeus goes outside to talk to Heron. He tells him that despite being a god, he doesn't know how to be a father. He's trying his very best to be a father to him. His own father wanted him dead, and when they met on the battlefield, Zeus had to kill him. He orders Heron to rest for the day as they will continue the training the next morning. Even after a whole day, Heron is still the same. He is still letting his anger control him. Zeus once again threatens him that if he cannot control his anger, then there is nothing he can do for him. Heron asks Zeus about Seraphim and how can he let him roam free. With this, Zeus tells him that Seraphim is actually his half-brother and that his mother wouldn't want him dead. He also reveals his backstory to him. When he was still a child, his father, a king, was murdered. His uncle, who was supposed to take care of him, decided to kill him and take over the throne. However, a servant loyal to the throne was witnessing all this and saved him. She decided to take care of him and left the castle. With nowhere to go, she hid inside a cave and prayed to the gods to have mercy on them. In the midst of all this, a bear appeared out of nowhere and attacked them. Heron, however, was witnessing all this and took mercy on them. The bear, who was supposed to kill them, instead became their ally, and they started living together. Things were going smoothly for them, until one day, his uncle discovered their secret and hunted them down. He threatened her sister and his husband to reveal their location and killed them right in front of their eyes. Seraphim was witnessing all this and decided to ambush the soldiers alongside the bears. As he rushed to his mother's side, his uncle pierced her throat with a sword, killing her right in front of his eyes. The soldiers also managed to kill the bears and run away. After this, Seraphim was forced to take refuge along the eastern shores of Meladonia, where he evolved. Following some years, he had literally become a monster. He decided to hunt down his uncle who had killed his mother. After some thorough research, he finally found him. As he was making out with the women in the back streets, Seraphim ambushed him and stabbed him multiple times. Hearing all this shouting, the soldiers came to see what was happening. However, all they saw was a dead body with numerous stab wounds and a mysterious guy. With hundreds of soldiers persuading him, Seraphim decided to flee. He somehow managed to run away even though he was injured, but the soldiers were still following him. With no other option left, he jumped off a cliff into the ocean and accidentally stumbled upon the remnants of a giant. He saw a weapon piercing the giant's body and decided to grab it to fight back. However, as soon as he touched the giant, his entire body started transforming. He was becoming a demon. He grabbed the weapon he was after and ambushed the soldiers. But his body hadn't fully transformed, he was still weak in the face of all these soldiers. The soldiers stabbed him and thought that he was dead, but little did they know what was awaiting them. Seraphim regained consciousness after some time and had fully transformed into a demon. He single-handedly killed 12 men on that beach, and 3 of them even became his servants. He also indicated that he can turn Seraphim back into a human if he wishes. After carefully observing the robot, Heron finally manages to find its weak spot and target with his sword. With this, he defeats the huge robotic and gets praised by Zeus. Following this, Hermes confronts them and tells them that the other gods have taken refuge under Hades and that war is inevitable. As they are conversing, Heron notices a weird spider on his body. Hermes tells him that is a sign that the fates are calling for him. Zeus takes him to the place where feticques are woven. Upon entering the facility, Heron meets 3 mysterious women who tell him that they want to help, but they are sensing doubt in his mind. Heron tells them that he doesn't even believe in fate, he believes in free will. The woman gives him an example of fate and free will by using a baby. According to this example, the baby crawling on a table does not know that he will fall from the table, but Heron, who is witnessing all of this, knows the future. With this, she tells him that Heron is the baby in this example and they are the ones watching over him. The woman further enlightens him that fate and free will coexist in this world and shows him his thread of fate. As soon as he touches it, he witnesses his past memories unfold before his eyes. The woman warns him that what he does in the upcoming days will affect the lives of millions. At one point, Heron's fate divides into 2 possibilities. When he touches one of the threads, he sees Electra and the others trying to cross the fields of the dead and dying. With this, he decides to leave his training behind and help his friends. He prioritizes his friends over the entire world. Upon reaching the field of dead, Heron notices a huge centaur guarding the gate Electra and the others were trying to cross. Seeing this, he absolutely obliterates the centaur with an arrow as he lands gracefully on the ground. Electra asks him what is he doing here as he was supposed to be training with Zeus. Heron replied by saying that he is there to return the favor. Following this, he gets briefed by Electra and the others regarding their journey. According to them, Chiron the Wise was the one who led them to the field of the dead. Upon reaching there, he warns them that once they enter the field, there is no going back, otherwise they will die. Electra asks Chiron to go back as he has done more than enough for them and they cannot afford losing someone with such immense knowledge. With this, they enter the fields. Evios and Kofi are the first ones to witness something strange in the intense fog. They see a horde of demons and a giant's body. However, Evios immediately realizes that these things are fake and that responding to them would mean instant death. He tells Kofi to keep walking without noticing them. Some soldiers, however, fell for this trap and turned into stone. Even Electra is not safe from all this as she witnesses her parents who died a long time ago. Despite all this, she somehow manages to make it through the fields. Following this, Heron and the others enter the gate and discover the entrance to the labyrinth where the remnants of the giant are supposed to be present. However, when they reached their destination, nothing was there. Instead, they got surrounded by Seraphim and his demons. Following this, Seraphim approaches Heron, asking him to join him and defeat the gods. According to him, the gods are more flawed as compared to them, and he is tired of being used as a pawn. He tries to manipulate him by using their mother's death as an excuse. Heron, however, refuses by saying that he will change everything peacefully. He also tells him that Zeus can turn him back into a human and all of this will be over. Seraphim asks him for the last time if he is against him or not. Heron replies by saying that he is against him. This makes Seraphim furious as he pulls out the adamantine sword. But little did he know that Heron has changed. He targets Seraphim's hand with arrows and disarms him. The soldiers also attack the demons with bags of fire and a war begins. Heron and the others decide to run away as the labyrinth was falling apart. Meanwhile, Seraphim is chasing them on his chimera. Only Heron, Electra, Evios, and Kofi are left as Seraphim massacred all of the soldiers using his spear. As soon as they get out, the labyrinth collapses, trapping Seraphim and the demons inside. They somehow manage to escape outside where Heron calls upon his griffin who gives them a ride to Olympus. It was a bit difficult for all of them to sit on the griffin. Evios even falls from it in the beginning. In the end, it is decided that Griffin will carry Evios in its claws. Upon reaching Olympus, Heron enlightens Zeus about Hera and her conspiracies. As they are conversing, Hermes appears out of nowhere and stabs Zeus in the neck. However, he is not the real one. The real Hermes appears just in time to save Zeus from conceiving any further damage. Zeus uses his lightning to close the stab wound and save his life. With all of this going on, Poseidon appears with Apollo, whom Ares had badly wounded and thrown into the ocean to rot away and die. Zeus immediately realizes that Hera must have offered the giants his beloved ocean. Hermes enlightens all of them about Hera's plan to revive the giants and kill Zeus. He was given the task to spy on Hera by Zeus, but Hera managed to discover him and steal his divine weapon that can control the cauldron. According to him, Hera ordered Seraphim to collect the cauldron of darkness from the depths of the ocean. He hesitated in the beginning, but had no other option. Using the adamantine sword, Seraphim managed to kill the entity created by Hephaestus to guard the cauldron. He then handed over the cauldron to Hera, who utilized it to revive the giants. As the giants rose from the ocean bed, Hera tried making a deal with them, but they refused and attacked the gods instead. However, after Hera threatened them using the cauldron, they had to listen. Hera offered them the ocean if they help her kill Zeus and talk over Olympus. Zeus then asks Poseidon about the location of the cauldron. He tells them that he is not exactly sure about this, but the cauldron must be kept in a well-guarded container behind the army front. With the war strategy meeting going on, Hermes volunteers to go and retrieve the cauldron as he is the swiftest of gods. However, Heron suggests that he should be the one to go after the cauldron, as no one would be expecting this. With this, the preparation for war commenced. Heron is choosing a weapon. Apollo gives him the bow Hephaestus had forged for him. Being considered illegitimate sons of Zeus, it was a heartwarming moment between the two. Electra and the others also chose their weapons. During their conversation, Heron feels a massive shudder. Apollo tells him that the giants have finally arrived. With Hera leading from the front, the chances for Heron and the others were looking grim. As Heron and the others are watching all of this, Evios and Kofi decide to admit their crime. The demons that were chasing them before were present there to meet up with them. They were the ones who discovered the remains of a giant and sold them to the demons. Zeus and his companions have the upper hand initially as Hermes and Apollo ambush the demon army, completely obliterating them. In this chaos, Heron and his friends are launched trapped inside fireballs to retrieve the cauldron. Now the circumstances change drastically when the giants start using their abilities. Besides Zeus, Poseidon, and some other gods, no one could survive their attacks. By combining their moves, Zeus and Poseidon managed to get rid of a huge number of the demon army. However, it is still not enough as the giants immediately counterattacked. Heron finally manages to infiltrate the facility where the cauldron is supposedly kept. After killing all the demons, they thoroughly check the containers, however, all of them were empty. Soon, Heron realizes that the cauldron is not on the ground, instead it is present in the sky. He calls his griffin and soars into the sky where he witnesses the cauldron protected by hundreds of crows. He tries getting rid of them using his arrows, but in vain. He was also keeping an eye on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Zeus literally begs Hera to not let the monsters destroy Olympus, but she is not ready to listen and continues attacking him. With no other option left, Zeus uses his lightning on Hera, rendering her incapable to move. With this, the crows guarding the cauldron also back off and Heron manages to get his hands on it. Despite all this, Hera is still not understanding Zeus' viewpoint. As she stands up to attack him again, a giant grabs her from behind. The giants have betrayed the gods and want to kill him. This makes Zeus angry and he ambushes the giant in his eagle form. However, his attacks are proving to be ineffective and the giant manages to capture him in place of Hera. As she is lying powerlessly on the ground, the giant decides to avail this opportunity and kill both Zeus and Hera in one go. Meanwhile, as Heron tries to escape with the cauldron, Seraphim notices him and attacks him. He manages to kill the griffin, and as Heron is falling, he grabs him. He mocks him by saying that he should choose sides wisely and releases him. The giant is about to step on Hera. Zeus pours his full power into this one attack and self-destructs, killing the giant alongside himself. Hera realizes that all of this is her fault and tries to grab Zeus' crown. As she tries to reach the crown, Seraphim uses his spear to cut off her arm. He wants to kill her, but she manages to escape. With this, Seraphim is in possession of both the cauldron as well as Hermes' divine weapon. With Zeus' death, things are looking grim for the gods. The giants have started targeting them, and there is no one who can actually give them a run for their money. Even gods like Ares and Poseidon are weak against them. With even Heron gone, Seraphim believes that he has won the war. Heron, however, had planned it all out. Using Electra as a diversion, who manages to kill the creature Seraphim was riding on, Heron appears from the sky riding a Pegasus and ambushes him from the sky and kicks him to the ground. After getting up, Seraphim attacks Heron using his spear, but he skillfully dodges it in midair and smacks him right in the face. He keeps punching him until the ground literally breaks. He then notices his father's crown, which made him even more furious, and he starts crying. He remembers the time when his father gave him hope and motivated him. However, this anger makes him lose concentration, and Seraphim manages to overpower him. He pierces his mouth with his sharp claws and thrashes him into the ground. He then picks him up and tosses him into some rocks. He remembers Seraphim's words when he accused Zeus of killing his mother. This makes his blood boil with anger as he approaches Seraphim again and tries to punch him. Seraphim, however, grabs him by his neck and calls back his spear to pierce Heron's chest. He tries his best to stop the spear from piercing his chest, but after remembering his father's words that not all foes can be defeated using strength, he allows the spear to pierce his chest and pushes it even further to pierce Seraphim as well. Seraphim tries his best to remove the spear, but he couldn't. Heron basically sacrificed himself to kill Seraphim. Despite all this, Seraphim is still not dead. As both of them are punching each other, something awakened inside Heron. He somehow awakens Zeus' lightning powers and uses them to finish Seraphim off. In the midst of all this, the giant Zeus had supposedly killed appears out of nowhere and tries to destroy the cauldron. However, Heron manages to activate the cauldron just in time and saves everyone. With this, the war is ended. The following day, Heron wakes up in a bed in a war-shattered Olympus covered with bandages. He notices that almost all of his wounds have healed. He also notices his dead father's statue that was still intact. In the midst of all this, his brothers give him a visit and tell him that his father was really proud of him. In fact, all of them are. Apollo also handed him over the pendant his mother used to wear. After this, he goes outside to see what is happening and is overjoyed to see that everything is totally fine. He also gets reunited with his friends as he is wandering around Olympus. Seraphim, on the other hand, was sent to rot in hell where he meets Hades, who offers him a deal.